This, I think, can change the way we do things. But this one is called service mapping, where you look at any process within your hospital, and it can be any process at all, that you want to improve, that you want to get better at. And you pull together a team of people that are responsible for that particular process, and you map it out. Using this tool, you map it out. But this is the difference between service mapping and process mapping, is that every step, every box is through the lens of the customer. So I'll show you what I mean. And I might get some of the answers wrong, but I'll show you what I mean. Let's say that one of the processes that you decide you want to improve is when a patient has a question about their bill. And I know this is a reality in your world, that this happens. And we say, this is one that's going to require some research. That we're not going to have the answer right away. And we want to get better at this. So what do? So we pulled together a team of people, we service map it out. And if I were facilitating it, if I were you and I were facilitating it, I would say, okay, what happens first? And somebody in the group says, well, the first thing is that they place the call to the hospital. So we put that down on the service map. Then somebody else in the group says, now they navigate to the proper person, they navigate to the proper associate, so we put that down. Somebody else in the group says, now they provide their patient information when they were there and all of that. So what we're doing is we're brainstorming. Now, it's a very dynamic process, so you may need to move things around and say, is that really what happens next, or is there something else in between? But we're brainstorming. Somebody else in the group then says, now they explain the problem or the discrepancy on the bill. Then another member of the team says, now we research the answer, because this is one that's going to require some research. Now, I want you to observe what just happened. And this is absolutely critical with the use of this tool. If you look at the first 4 boxes that are up there, those are through the lens of the customer. But if you look at that 5th box, that's through the lens of the organization. The question, if you were facilitating this discussion, the question that you would want to ask is, while we are researching the answer, what is our customer doing? And what's the answer to that question? They're waiting. That's what needs to go in the box. The customer waits while we research the answer. Now you have something to work with because you're seeing it through their lens. And then obviously you would continue it on from that point. So the first step then is identify a process that you want to improve within your operation. Second step is to pull together a group of people and map it out through the lens of your customer. Then the next step, and this is where the magic really kicks in. If you'd go ahead and turn the page in the handout. Turn to the page 2 in the handout. Now, for each step that you just identified, you ask 2 very important questions. What would mediocre service look like at each step? And then what would excellent service look like at each step? And here's the reason that I suggest that you do it exactly that way. If you're brainstorming with your team and you say, okay, we're at this step. What would mediocre service look like at this step? And we start brainstorming it. I promise you, on some of those steps, somebody in that group is going to say, you know what? What we just defined as mediocre, that is exactly what we're doing at that step. Which sounds negative, but it's not. Because it provides you then a wonderful springboard for saying, well, if that's what we're doing now, and it's mediocre, then what would excellent service look like? And that's where the ideas really start to come out. And keep in mind, I'm not naive. I know you can't implement every idea that comes out. But some of the things you'll be thinking, why didn't we ever think of it before? Like, I do a lot of work with the banking industry. That's one of the industries I spend a lot of time with. There has to be a bank out there, must be a bank out there, that was the very first one to say, if a customer comes through the drive-through teller and they have a dog in the car, we ought to put a dog biscuit in the container when we send it out to them. How many of you bank at a bank that does the dog biscuit? Okay, I just love that. Now, when I work with a bank and somebody says, oh, that's a great idea, we need to do that, I always tell them, please coach your employees to make sure there is a dog in the car, all right?